Hello, this is Miss Lally and got my squash that I am going to do a squash recipe on. And it's something that I've seen on YouTube. I wanted to know different squash recipes. So I saw a squash and onion recipe that I wanted to put together for my dinner that I figured would be kind of good for the family. So I washed off my squash, and this recipe I think would be good because my husband is kind of sometimey about this about eating squash. So I'm hoping, or I was hoping, that this recipe would really work for him. So I cut my squash up, and so I cut my squash, cut the top and the bottoms off. And then I made sure I cut everything into nice size medallion pieces. Now, these onions that I cut, they had a very somewhat strong onion smell, which was pretty good. And they look pretty good. I wasn't sure if I was going to use these, I guess, the stalk part, but I just decided not to. And so I cut the onions, peeled the peelings off, and it looked good on the inside. So after cutting everything up, well, the squash and the onions, this looks like this is going to be a good enough amount for my husband, myself, and my daughter. I think this will be good. And this dish I am preparing is going to go along with our dinner. So next, I take some butter and let the butter melt until it's good and hot. And now I'm ready to add the onions and the squash. Now at first I was like, oh man, this pot probably not gonna be big enough. But I got this recipe inspiration off of YouTube, and I remember, even though the squash looks like even though it looks like it's, excuse me, too big right now, the squash is going to wither down some, and the onions. So I had to remember that. So the pot wasn't too small to use. Then I got a top, put it on the squash and onions, and let it cook for a little while till it cooked down. So this is how the squash looked when it has cooked down some. And in the recipe, the guy was saying that, you know, as far as letting it cook down, he also added salt and pepper, which is what I did. You let the squash cook down to your liking. So at this point, I knew that I like my squash just a tad bit more tender. So I let it continue to keep cooking. But it was looking good to me. So now at this point it has cooked down some more, but I'm going to add a little sugar, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the guy also did that too. I'm going to put a link to that channel, to that video, in the description box. But I added a little sugar because my husband is just sometimey about squash, and so I figured, okay, last time I cooked some squash, I didn't do it like this, but I boiled it on the stove, and I fixed it in another fashion also. So I figure what I'll do is add a little sugar and see how my husband takes a liking to that. Okay, so this is the finished product. It was fried squash with onions, sided up along smothered pork chops over rice, and I am happy to report I asked my husband as he was giving me crazy looks about the squash, but he ate it and he said it was much better. So this recipe is a winner in my household. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.